Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Daniel Hackley. I'm with North Carolina State University, a VA certifying official and assistant registrar there. Welcome to NC Strive 2020. I will be your host today for this presentation, which is on maximizing VA education benefits and just kind of talking through and offering a multifaceted approach to funding your education while using benefits. Before we really get started here, first I want to just briefly talk about what NC Strive is and kind of where it came from. So the first conference was launched in 2015 with a collaboration with North Carolina's Governor's Working Group and the VA. The purpose of this conference is to increase awareness and knowledge about issues affecting veterans and their families as they make the transition from the military to an academic setting while offering a wide variety of resources. For the last four, this would be in the fifth year, we've offered this regionally throughout the state of North Carolina, typically where there's four conferences each year. Unfortunately, as we know, this year we had to move the conference virtually, which maybe for some of us is a good thing now that we can provide these videos online. Maybe there's a little bit more outreach and access to some of the information. A large purpose of NC Strive is to not only provide you guys with the resources and information, but to also equip administrators, faculty, and staff in higher education with information, resources, and networking that will enhance their experience and success of student veterans in their pursuit of certificates and degrees. So really, we want to make sure not only are you guys set up for success, but that the educators and leaders that are at our universities also have those resources and knowledge to better assist you and to make sure that your transition and time in higher ed is smoother and more efficient. Before we get into the contents and learning outcomes and objectives, I just figured I'd give you a little background on myself. I was once in your shoes. I got out of service after serving 6 years the Army in 2011. Applied to a 4-year university and was denied because I didn't have the right prerequisites, which we'll talk a little bit about here. Ended up at a community college where I attended for 2 years before reapplying to NC State. I then got into NC State in 2013 and completed my bachelor's degree in 2015, 16. And at that point, became a staff member and VA certifying official working in the registrar. So I've kind of been doing this for the last 4 years. We've sat in your shoes and been in your seat. So a lot of the things that you're either going through or are going to go through, we've been through. So we definitely use a lot of that experience and transition that over to assisting our students. So again, my contact information will be at the end of this presentation. Please feel free to reach out anytime if you have questions. All right, so back to the presentation. So what we're going to kind of go over, we'll go over how to use tuition assistance, or I should say using tuition assistance. My disclaimer is going to be that tuition assistance is probably the one area that I don't know as much about or I don't have as much experience with. So we definitely recommend that students always work with their education office, whether that's through the National Guard or a local base. If you're stationed in the state of North Carolina, visit your education office on base and definitely talk to those individuals that are in those offices because they see a lot more use of that and kind of know how it's best used to support long-term and short-term educational goals. We'll also be talking about what to do to prepare for your transition. So, what do you need to be doing now if you're looking to transition out of the service and looking to go into higher ed? And then the last one is maximizing your resources. So what resources are really out there? What things do you not hear about that we can then inform you about? And then through this, we hope that some of the outcomes and objectives that you're able to gain from this is a clearer understanding of how VA education benefits really do work. We're going to explore multiple ways to use those benefits in order to prolong coverage, and then hopefully that you'll be able to identify additional funding sources for education besides just GI Bill and connect with additional programs and resources that can then support your higher education goals. One thing that you'll notice throughout the presentation is there'll be some text that is highlighted in red, or I should say it's red font and it's underlined. If you download the actual PowerPoint presentation, you'll be able to access uh, those sections, which are all hyperlinked to direct resources. So if there's something that you're interested in, you want to get more information, just download the PowerPoint, click on the link, and it'll take you directly to the resource that I'm referencing at that point. So let's get started with using tuition assistance while serving. So tuition assistance is available, and I think most of you guys will know this, to active duty personnel, our National Guard and Reserve members. If you're active duty and you're enlisted, you basically can use TA as long as you complete your course before you transition out. You're going to be eligible for TA. If you're an officer looking to use TA towards a higher level degree, you just have to make sure that you have an additional 2 years of service from the point you completed that last course. So that's one thing some officers don't know about. But when using tuition assistance as active duty, this is really a great way to get ahead of the game and use this funding source instead of your GI Bill benefits, or to really set you up by taking prerequisite courses and your first year and second year courses, if you're thinking of a 4-year degree, to kind of save that time of GI Bill benefits for when you do transition out and matriculate into an actual degree program on campus. If you're a member of the National Guard or Reserve, you also have tuition assistance. The big difference here is that right now, tuition assistance for Guard and Reserve members is only available to Army, Air Force, and Coast Guard. Each of the armed forces does determine how to administer their own tuition assistance. That goes along with active duty as well. So although some of the information in here is general to DoD regulations, each branch does kind of have its own way of how students need to go about requesting tuition assistance, what kind of programs are approved, what you need to do before you can start using it. So definitely reach out to your education offices if you're unfamiliar or haven't really used tuition assistance before. The other large option here is NC TAP, or the NC Tuition Assistance Program, and that's for our North Carolina National Guard and Air Guard members. Those that is going to be a state pot or a state funding pot of basically the same program as federal or DoD tuition assistance. So this extra benefit really kind of goes a long way for our National Guard members, because they can use the state funded tuition assistance, which again has the same cap as the federal tuition assistance, one semester or one part of the year, and then also use the federal tuition assistance program on the second part. And we'll kind of talk about that a little bit more on the next slide. The tuition assistance program may fund up to 100% of your college tuition and certain fees. The big caveat here is the fees. Make sure you find out what your listed fees are, and you know what fees are covered by tuition assistance, because it doesn't cover all fees or all costs. So definitely look into that. An example of that would be if for some reason if you decided to do a study abroad program, or you had to have internship assurance or something like that as part of the course that you were taking, that would not be a covered fee. So even though you'd be charged it, DoD will not cover those costs. Typically, we see a $4,500 a year fiscal cap. That year runs from October 1st to September 30th. So even working within that October 1 to September 30 timeframe, there is kind of a way that you can start and stop using benefits or your tuition assistance to cover additional costs, depending on how you're going to school throughout the term or the year. All right, so types of programs covered. So what can you use tuition assistance for? So it can really be used for quite a bit of things. Vocational and technical programs. If you're looking at an undergraduate degree, associate's degree, bachelor's degree, it's definitely approved for that. Graduate programs, so whether that's a master's or a PhD level, there are greater restraints on the use for the graduate levels, but it can be used. Independent study, it can be used for that, and also distance learning programs. So it doesn't have to be something that is specifically on campus or a degree program that requires you to go, on campus. An additional benefit with tuition assistance is the top-up program. And what top-up is it basically allows you to cover the remaining costs if your tuition assistance either is capped or you're hitting your cap and you have, another $2,000 to go or to pay for, you can use the top-up program with your GI Bill benefits to cover the difference. This is for only Chapter 30 Montgomery GI Bill and post 9/11. So if you're National Guard Reserve and you have the Chapter 1606 selected reserve, you won't be able to use top-up unless you've had, an activation or some active duty time that has made you eligible for the Montgomery GI Bill or post 9/11. So again, top-up program, if you're reaching your cap or your costs are above what tuition assistance is covering, you can then use your benefits to kind of help cover that gap. Top-up program is great, if you're short-term or you just need, that one semester here or there. It's something that I typically don't recommend a whole lot long-term, unless, you're going to be in for 4-6 years and use TA every semester and get that degree while in service. But if you're looking to get out in a relatively short time frame, it can kind of take away some of your months, or your benefits might not be a best use to use that while, maybe not taking a full load of classes or completing a degree long-term while using tuition assistance. In order to use top-up program, you do have to apply. That's the bottom part there, application. Make sure you apply for your GI Bill benefits, because if you try to use top-up and you haven't completed that application, it won't work. So you can do that through va.gov. And again, reach out to your education office on base or through the Guard and have that conversation with an education officer to see kind of what they recommend you doing. I would say that's probably one of the biggest pieces of advice that we give to active duty and Guard members is having that conversation, because those education officers really are seeing what's going on and how students are best utilizing those tuition assistance benefits and costs. All right, so maximizing that tuition assistance, right? So how do we get the most out of that? If you are National Guard, you're eligible for both. So you can use federal tuition assistance funding, up to that $4,000, $4,500 annual amount. You can use that one semester, and then you can switch over and use NC TAP the second semester. So you have both pots in that route, which is super helpful, especially if you have Chapter 1606. On the other hand, that only pays out about $400 a month, so about $1,600 if you're a full-time student per semester, which doesn't really cover a whole lot, especially if your tuition fees are at $5,000 or $6,000 or even higher if you had a private school. The other option is just using tuition assistance, right? So when we talk about maximizing, again, don't use your GI Bill benefits and start using it. We really recommend this to students that are looking to go into higher education. If you're about 2 years out, definitely start, right? So start looking at the degree programs and schools that you want to go to and see what those costs are going to be, but more so get a jump start on taking those classes. Maximizing and using TA, it's going to be taking classes now while you're in service so that you're not wasting your GI Bill benefits on a year that you could have used TA to pay for, right? So if you can save 8 months of GI Bill benefits by taking 24 to 30 credit hours while you're in service, then you're already ahead of the game and maximizing your GI Bill benefits. Down here at the bottom, North Carolina Installation Education Offices, you can reach out to any of these. They're all hyperlinked. Again, contact that education officer, set up an appointment to see what they recommend and what works best for that, for your situation. So what to look at when thinking of education post-service, right? So you're getting ready to get out. What do you really need to start focusing on? So many times we get students that apply to NC State that just think that, I'm going to come in with 30 credit hours or 20 credit hours worth of military experience. I did great things. I served 6 years, and I've taken 8 to 12 credit hours in service, and I'm going to apply and I'm going to get in. And unfortunately, it doesn't quite work that way. So definitely, while you're still in the transition portion of still in service and looking to exit out of service, Find out what your goals are. What are your end goals? Are you starting at an undergraduate level, but your end goal is a graduate level? So if that's the case, there's going to be definitely some strategy to how you can use benefits to cover more of the graduate courses. Are you looking to just get out and do a certification? Are you looking to just do like an IT certification, or possibly an undergraduate certification or graduate level certification? Or are you looking to do vocational technical programs, whether that's maintenance, flying? Your GI Bill benefits will cover a flight training. So you can, that's just another school you can go for and use your GI Bill benefits. But really, what are your goals? Next is to then find out where you need to start. So does that institution support your goal, right? So if you're looking at a 4-year school, start looking at public universities and private universities and what those differences are. Use that GI Bill comparison tool to find out what those costs are, what they offer. Do they offer priority registration? Do they have yellow ribbon benefits? If they do, what's their yellow ribbon program? And we'll talk about yellow ribbon a little bit later as well. And then also look to see, if you are thinking of a 4-year school, even if it's a public school, can you start at the community college and save yourself some time and money? Community college tuition rates are going to be a fraction of what you're going to see at a 4-year public institution. So if you can start there and knock out 2 years and not even use GI Bill benefits, and then transition to a 4-year school where there you maybe only have 2 years left, that's another great way to maximize your use of benefits. So again, use that GI Bill comparison tool and find out what those costs are, and find out if those institutions really do support your goal. Accreditation is huge. So a lot of people, when they hear about accreditation, they see the two, regional and national accreditation. And when we look at this, we think probably that national accreditation is better, right? It's country, state, West Coast to East Coast in a sense, compared to regional. Well, it's actually the opposite. Regional accreditation tends to be where we see credits are earned from institutions that are regionally accredited are more widely accepted. So you're going to see that schools that are regionally accredited, it's going to be easier to transfer classes from one school to another school. Whereas our national accreditation, it's a little bit harder to move credits from a nationally accredited university to a regionally accredited university. So definitely look to see what the accreditation is of that school, because the last thing you want is to be working while you're in service towards a degree from a university that's nationally accredited, and then find out that you want to go to an ECU, an NC State, a UNC Charlotte, and half of those credits that you took at that nationally accredited university aren't going to transfer in. So again, look at regionally accredited schools. They tend to be better, easier to transfer. I shouldn't say it's a better school, but it's the transition process from transferring credits from one school to the next tends to be more in your favor. So definitely look at that. And then finding out what benefits do you have? What are your eligibility? How many months do you have remaining when you are transitioning out? 36 months of GI Bill benefits, if you're using post 9/11, is about 4.5 years of school at a full-time rate. So you can kind of get an idea of what those benefits are going to take you, or how far they're going to take you. And the reason why I say 36 months is about 4.5 years, in case you're saying, no, he can't do math, is that the way GI Bill benefits are charged is they're charged at a full-time rate. Every academic day that you're enrolled in that academic calendar is a day of benefits that's charged from you. So if the semester is 16 weeks long, then you're going to get charged 4 months. If it's 16 weeks and 3 days, then you're going to get charged 4 months and 3 days of benefits. Everything with the VA is down to days. And that, again, that's at the full-time rate. And we'll kind of talk about how you can use full-time and part-time to, again, maximize those benefits a little bit later on. And then how long is it going to take you to get to that end goal, right? So if you're thinking of that graduate program level, but you're only at 12 credit hours right now, but you want to get that master's, or you want to get that doctorate degree, or become a professional, degree holder, what's that going to look like? And then how do those benefits, is it better to use those now or later? And again, we'll talk about that in a minute. And then again, private versus public, right? So know that just because you have GI Bill, post-9/11 benefits, that doesn't mean it's going to cover the tuition rate at any school in every school. So there's going to be a public rate, a cap for every state that you want to go to, or if you're looking at, and every state is a little bit different. So depending on what state you end up going to school in, that is going to determine the cap for your GI Bill benefits. So admission process, right? So you're looking to get out, you're looking to come into a university or to community college. What do you need to start doing? And again, this is where we see so many service members make mistakes, and that's because they're making assumptions. They think that they've taken the right classes or they've taken enough classes, but unfortunately, they never really kind of dug in and did some research. So find out what the admission requirements of that school that you're looking to attend are. Probably my biggest advice, right, is to find out what that is. At NC State, they want to see students transfer in with already completed 30 credit hours. So if you've completed 20 credit hours and you've knocked it out of the park and gotten, all A's, there's a good chance that you are not gonna come in or make admissions into NC State. That doesn't mean you're not going to. That's just you're not a competitive applicant at that point. They're going to be looking at other transfer students that are more competitive than you are. The other biggest factor that we see kind of get in the way of students is they might have 30 credit hours. They might have 45 credit hours, but they're missing prerequisites. So if you're looking at our engineering programs, or if you're looking at our business programs at NC State, they want to see Calculus 1, Calculus 2 completed. And if you're like me, when we went into service, we probably didn't already have Calculus 1 before service. And then while we're serving, there's a good chance we never took Calculus while we're in service. So that's just an example, right? I know not everyone's going to NC State and not everyone's looking to go to engineering, but definitely look into, if it's ECU, look into, their medical programs and their mission requirements to find out what kind of anatomy or chemistry or biology courses that might be required, right? So every degree program at every university typically has a definition of what a competitive applicant looks like. If you're not sure, if you can't find that, just simply reach out to one of the program directors. So when you look up or you Google a degree, that degree is going to fall into some kind of department somewhere. Contact them. Even if you don't have questions about how to get in, still contact them and begin that connection. Departments have some leeway on how people get in and who they're looking at. And if you're starting that connection and kind of already networking with them and letting them know that you're an interested applicant, you're going to find out exactly what is required to be a competitive student, so that you're not wasting your time on an application that you might not be competitive on. But it also gives you a chance to kind of get in front of someone that might have a decision capability or influence on the decision. So it doesn't hurt, right? At the same time, they're going to tell you, they're going to give you additional advice and information on how their programs work, what kind of employment opportunities come out of those degree programs. And then you have a little bit more information to find out whether or not this is the degree program that you want to pursue. Look at the in-state and out-of-state residency, right? So for tuition purposes, a lot of veterans or service members, when they transition out, are aware that they're eligible for the in-state rate at a public university within their 3 years from discharge. So that's under the Choice Act. And if you're not familiar, basically, if you're transitioning out of service or you've transitioned out of service and you're going to a public institution using your post 9/11 or Montgomery GI Bill, that school has to classify you to the in-state tuition rate, as long as it's within 3 years of your discharge date. So what students don't realize is, for many schools, that this isn't an automatic process. You still have to do something. So find out what their tuition rate is going to be if you're outside of your 3-year window. Find out if you're moving to a new state, what are their reclassification requirements? Can you be outside of those 3 years? Some states do a reclassification, or some schools will do a reclassification just for being a veteran. So definitely check out, and then make sure that you're aware of that. Fafsa applications on your admissions, so you're getting ready to be admitted. You don't have to already be admitted when you complete that FAFSA. application. Okay, so FAFSA is for federal grants, federal aid. It does not compete with any of your GI Bill benefits. So complete that FAFSA application. And that's something that you can complete every year. And we recommend that no matter how much money you're making, if you're married and your spouse is a doctor and making $200,000 a year, complete those FAFSA application. Another reason why we tell students to do that is because there are a lot of schools that will have scholarship opportunities, and they'll use that FAFSA application to see, who might be eligible for that scholarship. And it might not be a need-based scholarship, so it might be a merit-based scholarship. We have a lot of donors that will set up, and they might be looking to provide a $2,000 scholarship for a veteran that attends this business program. And if you didn't do that FAFSA application, then you're not going to even be in the pool. So definitely knock out that FAFSA application. One thing we don't recommend you doing is completing your VA benefits application. So, and the reason why is when you complete that application, you might complete it for, we'll say, post 9/11 GI Bill, right? But you might not get into that 4-year university, and you might end up going to the community college. Well, once you're there, it might be better for you to use your Chapter 30 Montgomery GI Bill instead of your post 9/11. But if you've already done your application for post 9/11 and it's been activated, it's going to be a lot harder for you, if not at all possible, to switch back to Chapter 30. Sometimes you can get away with that if you've never used your benefits, but I will tell you that is a pain in the butt if you've already applied for post 9/11 and you want to switch back to Chapter 30 if you've never used it. So again, we recommend just kind of waiting on that until you've been admitted to a school, and then complete your VA benefits application. And that is, for that chapter benefit that you wish to use. And the last one is, how does your military experience and credit transfer into that college? That should be a large, big question that you pose to those schools when you are looking to apply. Unfortunately, for UNC system schools, there aren't a whole lot of college credits that are awarded. Now, if you go to some of these non-for-profits or for-profit schools, you typically will see a lot more college credits awarded. I'm kind of mixed feelings on that. I think that we could do better from a UNC system standpoint on being able to provide college credits for military training and experience. However, we do see that a lot of times the courses that you guys are getting credits for are courses that you would need to retake in order to advance anyways in the course you're taking. So if you're going to get college credits for a prerequisite course or for an entry-level course, and you start right into a 200 level, you might have really needed that 100 to start that base or hit that baseline before you jumped into that 200 level. And sometimes it can really set you back. So don't think of it as a bad thing if you aren't getting a whole lot of college credits. Take that as an opportunity to continue learning and kind of like turn that into something positive. So what if I'm not a competitive applicant or don't meet admissions criteria, right? So hopefully you find out about this before they send you a letter saying that you're not eligible or that you did not get into the school. But if that's the case, then find out why. Why are you not a competitive student? And once you find that out, then you can typically work from there. So if you're looking at a 4-year school and you need prerequisites to get into that engineering program or into that medical program, then maybe start at that community college and take those prerequisites and get yourself geared up. We typically see with transitioning service members that they succeed. They tend to do better and they succeed more often when they start at the community college when they transition out. And there's a couple of reasons behind why that is. And one of them being, when you guys transition out, if you haven't been in school or been doing school as like a full-time or even on campus learning, then you're going to have to readjust to what is expected, right? Kind of relearn those study habits, how to format those papers and write in AP or MLA or what are different styles. On math, it might have been 4 or 5 years that you've completed a math level. And so you might assume that you took Calculus 1 in high school or at a community college before or at a university before you entered service, but it's been 4 or 5 years, right? And so you might think that you can just walk right into Calc 2 again. Well, there's a good chance that we forgot some things. So that's where we see the community colleges as a great platform for transitioning service members to kind of have that opportunity to relearn some of those skills or to gain those skills that they might not have already had, which then allows them to succeed better long term. We also see that the courses that are offered tend to be a lot more flexible, right? So at the community college, it's geared towards non-traditional students, which you are as a non-traditional student. When you transition out, you might have employment needs, right? So you might have to have a job and not be able to just be a full-time student between 8 and 5. You might need to take night courses. Well, those community colleges typically are going to give you a lot more flexibility in those course offerings. So if you need to be more of a nighttime student and you like on-campus courses, then you're going to get those offerings more at the community college than you are at a typical 4-year institution, where most schools are going to gear their courses between 8 and 5 p.m. And really, it's even more so between 9 and 3 p.m., which doesn't give you a whole lot of time to work if you are having to work during, sunlight daytime hours. So that's another reason. The last reason is if you do have a bad semester, that transition back in didn't go as smooth as you wanted and it affected your education, it's going to stay on that community college transcript. Whereas if you come right into a 4-year institution and you have a bad semester, that bad semester is going to stay with you throughout the remaining time of your undergraduate degree. So, having maybe a C- or a C semester, that 2.0 semester at the community college, again, you're going to get the credits. So all the credits are going to transfer to you or with you to that 4-year school, but it's not going to hold down your GPA at that 4-year university. So we see a lot of positives, and then again, a lot of success for students that start at that community college. So once you're admitted to a 2-year and 4-year program, at this point, you're going to want to find out what VA education benefit really does work best for you, right? If you're at a 2-year school and you know that you want to go to a graduate degree, but you have to use GI Bill benefits, it might be that you want to do Chapter 30, Montgomery GI Bill, for your 2 years at the community college, and then use it for another 2 years at the 4-year university. Use up all 36 months, in which point you're eligible for an additional 12 months of post 9/11 once you exhaust all 36 months of your Chapter 30 Montgomery GI Bill. And I think we talked about that a little bit on the next slide as well. So that might be an option for you. If you're at a community college, you might not be able to, or I shouldn't say you might not be able to, you might not want to use any benefits. Their tuition rates might be low enough to where you might be able to use your Fafsa application and your federal aid to cover all of your tuition fees or leave very little out of pocket, to where you can then save those GI Bill benefits for that 4-year or that graduate level degree. You're going to want to apply for your VA education benefits at this point, once you've been admitted. So again, va.gov, and look to see that application can be completed digitally online. So if you're doing paper forms and mailing them or faxing them to the VA, just go to va.gov instead and complete that digital application. We also recommend, maybe before you actually complete that application, is contact that school's school certifying official, so their VA office, and ask them what they see works best. What do they recommend you use? You don't have to listen to them, but you could at least get their advice and then make a more educated and informed decision on what is going to work better for you. They might have scholarships at that school that they might be able to provide you with, and then that might help you, and you might not need to use your GI Bill benefits. Another big part on here is contacting the financial aid office and amending your Fafsa application. And this is probably, again, one of the biggest advices that I can give on the financial side. So amending that Fafsa application. So what does that mean? It means that when you completed that Fafsa application, it's pulling your income from 2 years ago. If you've recently separated from service, then most likely you were making a lot more money while in service than you did when you transitioned out, or what you are now as transitioned out of service. So by going to that financial aid office, you can ask them to amend your application to reflect your current income, which for a lot of transitioning service members is $0 if they have no income, or very little if they're working a part-time or a low-paying full-time job because they plan on going back to school full time. So what they can do is they can amend your FAFSA application at your school so that it's not pulling that you're making $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year, and now you're not aid eligible because you were making too much money 2 years ago. They amend it to reflect your current income, and all of a sudden now you're eligible for financial aid. At NC State, typically what we're going to see on grant sides is when students come in, if you're a single student, you're probably going to get between $2,500 and $3,500 a semester in grants. So again, grants are not loans. You do not have to pay any of it back, and it does not compete with your GI Bill benefits. So in essence, it's free money that you can pay towards your housing costs. You can pay towards, fuel and commuting costs if that's what you're going to do. Whatever you want to use that money for, it's your money. You can use it. If you're married, we see those grants go up to about $5,000, and then if you're married with kids, we've seen them go as high as $10,000 a semester, based on how many kids you have and what the family income level is. So again, it's not competing with your GI Bill benefits. You can use it for your undergrad. If you're a graduate student, unfortunately, there are no FAFSA grants eligible for graduate students, just loans that are offered through the federal government. But amending your FAFSA application to reflect that current income, definitely a big hit there. If you are a graduate student, though, you still have some opportunities to look at, reach out to your department of the degree program that you have been accepted into. So we'll say that's the MBA. If you're looking to get your MBA and you've been accepted, contact your MBA department and ask them if they have assistantship opportunities or additional funding opportunities. A lot of graduate programs have additional resources to help get you into their program. So reach out, ask those questions, and see what they say. It might be something that you might not be able to get the first semester, but it might be something that they're able to get you that next semester or that next year. So if you don't ask, you won't know. Ask, and hopefully there's something out there for you to help out. One thing with some of these funding opportunities, sometimes they do compete with GI Bill, with post 9/11 GI Bill benefits. So if they do, or if you are offered an assistantship or some kind of funding scholarship as a graduate student, again, I suggest reaching out to your school certifying official to find out if it's something that's going to compete with your GI Bill, post 9/11 GI Bill benefits. And that's because the VA is only, if your assistantship funding or your scholarships are only going towards tuition fees, and the VA is going to be the second payer. Residency, again, look at that residency. Once you're admitted, make sure that they have you classified as an in-state student and not an out-of-state student. Again, we see students all the time that just think that this happened naturally. It might at some schools, it doesn't here at NC State. There is action required on your behalf. If you're not eligible for in-state reclassification, if it's been outside of that 3 years or you don't have post 9/11 eligibility, then you can look into the Yellow Ribbon program, which does require post 9/11 eligibility. But if it's, if you're coming from outside of the state, or if you're not even going to move into the state that you're going to school at, so if you're living in Virginia but attending a North Carolina school, you can still look into the Yellow Ribbon program, which will hopefully cover the majority, if not all, of the out-of-state tuition costs that the VA is not paying. So look into that Yellow Ribbon program. All right, so just kind of looking at what some of these GI Bill benefits, cover and what they pay. So Chapter 1606 is going to pay that $392 for a full academic month. Again, that's a full-time student. Your monthly payment is affected by your training time, your full-time, part-time status. So if you're not a full-time student, you're going to see that reduced a little bit based on the percentage, 3/4 time, half time that you're going in. And it makes, yes. So, and Chapter 30 Montgomery GI Bill is the same way. So right now, $2,050 is what your Chapter 30 Montgomery GI Bill is paying. If you do the $600 buy-up that you could have done while you were in service, I believe that adds an additional $150 per month. That monthly payment is also affected by your training time. So again, if you are not a full-time student, that payment will be reduced. Both Chapter 30 and post 9/11 and 1606 are also all eligible for tutorial support. So another option that a lot of students don't know is that you are eligible for $100 a month or $1,200 annually in tutorial support. So if you need a tutor and you have to pay somebody for a tutor, the VA will reimburse you up to $100 a month, $1,200 a year. So it's not bad, especially if if you need a tutor just once a week or something like that. Use those VA benefits and use that VA funding for that tutorial support. Post 9/11, many of you know this, the tuition fees are covered. They're paid directly to the school, so not to you. At NC State, the housing rate is about $1,560 for a full month. It's always going to be based on the zip code of the school that you go to. So if you're at ECU, Charlotte, Chapel Hill, Asheville, it's going to be a different rate for that school. The book stipend is paid out at $41.67 per credit hour, and it caps at $1,000 a year annually. So if you're always wondering how the VA figured out how much money you got for your books or you receive for your books, it's based on per credit hour that you're certified for. So at 12 credit hours, you multiply that by $41.67, and you're going to see that's $500. With this book stipend, if you're a first-time post 9/11 GIBIL user and you're walking into the fall term, you're going to see that your fall book stipend is most likely going to be higher than your spring. And that's, if you're taking 15 credit hours your fall term, you're going to get about $660 for your books. And then that's going to leave you with about $350, $340 for the spring term. So just kind of understand that you only get $1,000 a year, and that's going to go August to August for the most part. With post 9/11 GIBIL benefits, also know that there are additional things that those benefits can be used towards, such as your student health fee or your student health insurance. So at the UNC system, we require all students to have health insurance when you exit service. If you are no longer carrying health insurance, which most of us will be eligible for VA health insurance, which will cover you and meet those requirements. But if your school offers a student health plan, that is a cost that can be certified and included in your fees and will be covered by your GIBIL benefits. So at NC State, our health insurance is $1,300 a semester, and that $1,300 is completely paid for by post 9/11 GIBIL benefits if the student's using it. And then they get health insurance for that half that year, basically. If they enroll in the next semester, then they get the other half of the year covered with health insurance. So it's, a great additional expense that is covered that a lot of students don't know about. Study abroad. We recommend that students go abroad if they can. The experiences that they have when they bring those to the study abroad programs, we tend to see not only the student enjoys kind of teaching other students that have not had those experiences, those broad experience, or might not have, like that maturity level or that exposure level that a lot of veterans have. We see it's a good fit. We see that it's a great opportunity for you to get out into an abroad or, to a country instead of having the uniform on, being a civilian and really being able to kind of enjoy the experience of studying abroad. So look into that. A lot of times study abroad fees and costs can be rolled into GIBIL benefits. If you're in a degree program that requires you to go abroad, there's even more costs that can be covered by your GIBIL benefits. So before you enroll in a study abroad program, though, we do recommend that you reach out to your school certifying official to find out what exactly is going to be covered before you go abroad and end up with a $6,000 bill that only $1,000 is being covered by your GIBIL. Vocational rehabilitation is kind of like the last of the VA education benefits for veterans. I want to talk about this one last because it's a program that you can use with your GIBIL benefits, not at the same time, but to kind of extend your educational opportunities. What Voc Rehab does is it does require you to have a 20% service-connected disability rating with the VA in order to apply. It is an employment program and not an education program, which means it's funded differently, which also means it's not pulling from your education benefits like Chapter 30, 1606, or post 9/11 would have. the benefits are managed through the Vocational Rehabilitation Employment Office. You'll also have a VA counselor that is appointed to you that will kind of help you in that process. It does cover 100% of the tuition and fees. It will reclassify you to the in-state rate if you're going to school within that state. So if you're, again, beyond that 3 years and you're moving to North Carolina and you're eligible for Voc Rehab, apply and you can get your residency waived this way. You're eligible for the same monthly housing stipend under post 9/11 or that post 9/11 offers, as long as you have that post 9/11 eligibility. So if you haven't exhausted your post 9/11 benefits, then you're still going to be eligible for that same monthly stipend that falls under post 9/11. If you're not, if you've already exhausted those post 9/11 benefits, or you just you got out and you never earned them, either you separated from the Guard or Reserve, then you're going to fall under a vocational housing rate, which is about $1,000 a month. So it can be significantly less depending on what school and what the housing rate is, but still it's better than nothing. It does cover all of your required textbooks and supplies, another big hit there. And it can also cover additional items such as parking permits, special tools or equipment, learning software or hardware such as a computer, tablet, printer, desks, kind of anything that's required for you to complete that training. Voc Rehab can cover and pick up. You'll just need to talk to your Voc Rehab counselor first before purchasing those items to make sure that it is going to be an approved item, or if you have to provide them anything else. And the last one on here is state-funded vocational rehabilitation program. So this is another one that a lot of students aren't aware of. It doesn't require you to be a veteran or a service member. So if you have a spouse or somebody, a friend, a family member that has a disability, they can definitely look into the state program. But again, it's going to be a program that you can get that can help pay towards those educational, vocational goals that you might have. And it can cover all those costs. So if you've already exhausted all of your post 9/11 benefits and you don't have that 20% or higher, you can still look at the state's vocational rehabilitation program. You do have to have a disability of some sort, a barrier to employment in order to kind of be eligible for the program. So I would contact them to find out a little bit more about what that means. But how to extend your benefits, right? So we just went through 4 different benefits, 5, including the state. And what does that mean, right? So a student that has a limited amount of time or a limited amount of benefits to cover. So if you're looking to go into grad school and you only have 3 years of benefits left and you're starting as a junior, right? So you're looking at having 4 years left. But if you only have 2 years of benefits remaining, how can you stretch those benefits? One thing that you can do is you can ask your school to not certify you for all 12 or more credit hours, right? So 12 or higher is considered full-time at a typical 4-month-long semester school. If you want, you can ask them to only certify you at 3/4 time. What that means is the VA is only going to charge you 3/4 of that semester. So you'd be charged 3 months out of the 4, which means you're saving a full month of GI Bill benefits. Yes, that does mean that the VA is not going to be covering your entire tuition fee costs. They're going to cover that 3/4 or 9 credit hours if you're paying for 12 or more. So you'd have to come out of pocket a little bit for some tuition fees. But if you're saving those months and you do that enough times, then you can see that paying only $1,000 a semester can, in the long run, save you, a couple of semesters or a full semester's worth of tuition fees long term. What this can also do is if you're receiving an ample financial aid package or have a very significant financial aid package, you might not need all of that money. So you could ask your certifying official to certify you as a part-time student so that you can save those benefits to, you could either transfer them. If you have that capability, you can transfer them to another dependent, or like I said, you can hold on to them and pay for that graduate level, that continued training, or even a second bachelor's if that's what you're looking to do. That transition piece from chapter 30 to 33, we kind of talked about that a little bit earlier. One way for you to kind of extend your benefits is to go through and use Chapter 30 all the way until you exhaust all 36 months under Chapter 30. And then at that point, you will be eligible to apply for post 9/11, in which you'll get an extension of 12 months for post 9/11. So, if you do, again, have a financial aid package, or you don't need that housing stipend, if your tuition fees are low enough, using Chapter 30 throughout and exhausting that to get those additional 12 months, that's going to be a year and a half worth of education, might be a way to kind of extend those benefits to get the most of schooling paid for. Applying for vocational rehabilitation. I recommend to all of our students that have that 20% or higher disability rating, when they attend the university or transfer into NC State, I recommend that they apply for vocational rehabilitation. The reason why is because it's going to pay the same costs as your post 9/11. In fact, it's going to get you a little bit more at NC State. It's going to pay for those parking permits. It's going to get you those additional supplies that your GI Bill benefits aren't going to cover. If your books go over $1,000 a year, you're not going to get any more of a book stipend under post 9/11, but Voc Rehab will still cover those charges. The other upside to this is that it's not being charged the same way as your post 9/11 or any of your GI Bill benefits. In fact, they're not going to get charged at all. So as an example is, if you walk into a university and have all 36 months of your GI Bill benefits, right, of your post 9/11 GI Bill benefits, and you go through your undergrad and you graduate and you just exhausted all 36 months of Voc Rehab. So you go into a school, you have your post 9/11 36 months, you're not going to use that. You're going to use Voc Rehab instead. When you graduate and you used all 36 months of vocational rehabilitation, you will still have 12 more months of your post 9/11. So you can go ahead and then enroll in that graduate program and use your post 9/11. So that's another way that you can kind of extend the use of your benefits. So, just kind of using that idea to better plan long-term what's going to work best can work better for you. The other reason why I tell students to apply for it now is because sometimes it's easier to get the Voc Rehab program, to cover an undergraduate degree than it is to cover a graduate level degree. Because it's an employment program, you do have to provide to the VA the requirement for you to have that master's in order to be employed in that sector. So if a master's level is not required for you to be employable in that career field, then they might not cover that graduate degree that you want to seek. Typically, if we see an undergraduate already enrolled in Voc Rehab, they could already be working with their counselor to cover that graduate level degree. So once you're kind of enrolled in the program, it's easier to make that transition from undergrad to grad and continue to have vocational rehabilitation pay for you. The other part is there is the 48-month rule. So typically, Voc Rehab will not pay over combined benefits of 48 months. So you get 48 months of vocational rehabilitation benefits. If you've never used post 9/11 and you apply to Voc Rehab, you'll get 48 months, not 36 like the post 9/11 pays. But if your program ends up taking you beyond that 48-month mark, unlike post 9/11, whereas you're done at that point, once you exhaust all 36 months, Voc Rehab, you could actually get an approval to go beyond the 48 month. So again, you're not entitled to more than 48 months, but you can get an approval to go beyond the 48-month mark. So, if you've used 36 months of GI Bill benefits, you're able to go into Voc Rehab. You make that transition into Voc Rehab, but instead of only 12 months, if your graduate degree or your program is going to take you 20 months instead of 12 months, you can get that extension to cover the additional 8 months to get you to that 20-month mark. And pay for your entire graduate program or whatever degree you need those extra benefits for. So that's probably one of the most complicated ones to really talk to students about. So if I lost you halfway through there, I definitely apologize. You can reach out, we can have that conversation, or you can reach out to the VA and talk to them about how the Voc Rehab program works. Again, you could use your federal grants with financial aid and with your GI Bill benefits and Voc Rehab, none of it competes. So apply for that Fafsa application, submit it, get it amended, and you'll be good to go. Another one that might allow you to extend past your 36 months of benefits is the STEM scholarship, right? So the VA came out with the STEM program or STEM scholarship last year, and this will allow you to basically get an additional 9 months of GI Bill benefits. So that will be, two and a half semesters. So going into that third semester of additional benefits. You do have to be enrolled in a STEM program. Graduate students are not eligible for this, unfortunately. But again, if you are in a STEM degree field and you are going to exhaust before you're able to graduate, definitely check out the STEM scholarship, because it is something that we're seeing a lot of students get awarded at this point in time. So community resources, right? So we just went through a whole bunch of GI Bill benefits and kind of what that looks like with TA, how to use different benefits at different times, whether or not you want to be a part-time student, a full-time student. One part that I did kind of leave out is when you exhaust your post 9/11 GI Bill benefits, the VA does pay you back that $1,200 that you initially paid in. A lot of students aren't aware of that. The other great thing about post 9/11 benefits is, and where the whole part-time, full-time benefits can come into play, is you only need 1 day of post 9/11 GI Bill benefits to cover an entire semester. So if you go, if you're going to exhaust your benefits in a semester, we'll say this fall, you're going to exhaust, right? But you still have to go the spring term before you can graduate. You can ask your VA certifying official to, again, certify you 3/4 time. And so they're only going to charge you 3 months. Well, that might leave you with 2 weeks or 2 days remaining, or 3 weeks remaining. In that case, you can use those remaining 2 weeks, 2 days, 3 weeks, whatever it is, to then cover you for the entire spring term. So you might come out of pocket $1,200 and have a slightly reduced housing stipend for that fall term, but you're going to make up for it tenfold come the spring term when you're then completely certified as a full-time student and receiving the full housing and get all your tuition and fees paid for. So again, that's an additional way that you can kind of use that full-time, part-time certification to extend your benefits and get that additional semester covered. So some community resources, again, that I just kind of wanted to point out, because these are ones that we see are doing great things for a lot of our service members and their families in the state of North Carolina. NC Serves, it is a local version of America Serves. So NC Serves is a resource that if you need assistance with anything, whether it's personal, financial, mental health, just kind of really anything, you can reach out to NC Serves, and as a nonprofit designed to get you in touch with a local representative that can then assist you. So again, if it's mental health that you might be seeking, they can get you in touch with a local mental health provider that can work with you typically at no cost. America Serves, if you're not in North Carolina and you're watching this, America Serves is the larger host and can definitely help you out if there is a local state or another state in your, if your state is a part of the network. And if so, then you can definitely look into those resources that your state offers. The UNC system, if you're looking at coming to a UNC system school, definitely check out that resource. They have a plethora of resources for military, and just kind of highlights a lot of the work that the UNC system has been doing in order to support our military families and our service members on that track to higher education. Onward Opportunity is located both at Camp Lejeune and Fort Bragg. I do not believe they're at Seymour Johnson at this point, but maybe coming soon. Anyways, they are still available to you. It's not something that requires you to be on base for. Family members are also eligible for Onward to Opportunity programming. What this is it's a nonprofit platform that provides 3 different learning pathways. So they offer certificates in IT, business management, and customer service. So if you're interested in business and project management or Lean Six Sigma, they have certifications that they will provide you all the coursework and then pay the testing fees for you at no cost to you. Same with the IT, if you're looking to go into cybersecurity or to capture some kind of IT certifications, they have several IT certifications that you can take for free and then become, receive those certifications. And a couple of other very popular veteran-friendly professional certification programs that we are seeing definitely in this triangle area is Cisco's VTIP program. So it's a veterans transition program that allows you to take Cisco certifications with the intent of employing you with Cisco once you complete their program. And then also SAS has several offerings also through Onward to Opportunity. Cisco and SAS have free certifications through Onward to Opportunity, but you can click on those Cisco and SAS links to see what else they offer you. Check out the Governor's Working Group. Again, they have tons of great resources, housing needs, anything like that, and as well as appointments and calendar invites to the working group, which is held monthly. Great networking opportunities. The College Foundation of North Carolina is the last kind of resource in our community resources. Kind of what they're doing, again, is they're just setting up a whole bunch of resources for you if you're going back to school full time, and kind of giving you an overview of what is out there for you. Some financial resources. We were talking about maximizing those benefits. A lot of service members, when they transition from service, kind of forget about this one, and that's unemployment benefits. Whether you're coming to NC State, or not NC State, but North Carolina, the state, or if you're going outside of North Carolina, look into their unemployment program. A lot of states have school-friendly unemployment programs. Back in 2016, 2014, I believe there is additional laws that were changed to allow or provide greater access to unemployment benefits. So it used to kind of be, if you're a full-time student, you might not be eligible for unemployment, but definitely look into your state's unemployment benefits to see if it is something that you're eligible for while attending school. Again, this can be additional income on top of financial aid, on top of your GI Bill, that can really set you up for success and not be struggling financially just to be a full-time student. If you're in that transition process and you are not looking at filing a disability, or if you've already transitioned out and you did not file a disability with the VA, again, we recommend looking into those options. They're out there for you. You can click on that locating a veteran service officer link there. That will get you in touch with a local county, state representative that can assist you with filing disability claims. So they are not a representative of the VA, but they support veterans or advocates for veterans that can then assist you with filing those disability claims. You could also, reach out to any of the American Legion, VFW, DAV. They also have veteran service officers that work with those organizations that can assist you as well. I'm going to bring it up one last time, is that financial aid, Fafsa application. Don't forget to do that. You have to do it every year. It opens in October for the next year. Knock that out, and hopefully, you guys get some financial aid. And then the last one is this link here. And that's scholarship opportunities. There are a lot of scholarship opportunities out there for service members, and you don't have to have a disability or a Purple Heart or serve 20 years. Check them out. They're not all, 20 grand scholarships, but, they have a lot of $1,000 scholarships, $500 scholarship opportunities. This link that's highlighted is to NC State's scholarship opportunities webpage that lists a bunch of different scholarships that are available to family members and service members. But definitely look at other schools as well and see what you might see on their web pages, or contact your NC Serves or your local Veterans Affairs offices to see what they may have. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the presentation. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me anytime. I hope you guys have a great summer. And again, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.